What's going on, traders? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. My name is Shark. We're going to go ahead and do some analysis here on the E-mini S&P futures as well as the NASDAQ 100 and Q futures. We'll look over the economic calendar for this week, look at some day trading levels, and we're going to go over some other data points that we like to look at each week that helps us formulate a game plan for the upcoming week. Of course, this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and in no way should be viewed as financial advice. All right, before we get into the larger time frame charts, as always, let's start off with the economic calendar for this week. And I also wanted to mention we're not going to spend too much time on the ancillary data points like we usually do. We're going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter this week. All right, so let's get into the Market Watch economic calendar and see what we have in store as far as economic data for this week. Let me get it. All right, here we go. Okay, so for this week, Monday looks pretty quiet. December 9th, nothing really going on. Tuesday, nothing really going on either. Wednesday, December 11th, though, we do have CPI at 8:30, so everybody should be aware of that and paying attention, as it can be a major market mover. And of course, we want to keep an eye on those inflation prints. Thursday, the 12th, initial jobless claims at 8:30, and then we have core PPI as well right there at 8:30. So two pieces of big data coming out at that time. Friday, the 13th, oh boy, looks like everything's pretty quiet there from the data front. So that's interesting. I think the big days we should be paying attention to, of course, is CPI and then just a little bit to a lesser extent the PPI. So there we go. We've got everything on deck for us as far as the economic report. Not really too much except for a CPI really that I am too interested in. Okay, so we're going to start off with the larger time frame. We're going to start off with the E-mini S&P futures as always. See what we can take away from the weekly view as we just continue to rally higher here. New all-time highs in the E-minis, hitting a high of 61.11, pulling back slightly, but we did close the week basically on the highs. Closing print 60.96.75, so right there just underneath that big 6100 marker right there. And it really, we had basically come down to that 50% marker of the week of the November 4th, and we found that bid there. We've talked about that 50% retracement many times before, and that led us up. And once we had broken over those previous swing highs, it was game on. Now, one thing I will point out or will say is that you can see the size of the weekly candles starting to slow down. I mean, these are relative last week versus this week. The prior week versus last week, excuse me, are pretty close to size, but just a little bit more indecision, I think, overall. You can see here the bottom wick is a bit stronger on the previous week of the 25th, and then we have here on the last week, so there we go, my cursor wouldn't move, the last week of the 12th. So I'm going to be paying attention to that. This one's kind of a little bit more, how should I say, balanced in a sense, where we have an equal wick or manipulation on each side of this weekly candle. But overall, it's pretty straightforward, right? What do we need to hold in order for this rally to continue? Well, certainly the weekly highs of the 11th, and what you can really do here is kind of create a bit of a demand zone right here from these weekly highs, and then you can come into the opening print like so, and you can really make an area like this. So any pullbacks into this we can consider up for higher, right? And we were talking earlier, and maybe for the past couple of weeks, about that 6,200 potentially for ES by the end of the year. I still think that that's possible if, of course, we start to see some weekly candle closes like this or like this, then we will start to potentially sing another song. But even if we do pull back and we do find some acceptance underneath this level, well, underneath, 6030, the hope is all not lost. We can still pull back even down into, we've got 6,000 right there underneath as a major psychological level. So I would also be keeping an eye on that. Pretty much, I think, as long as we stay over that 6,000 from the weekly view, I don't really see too much of an issue. Maybe 59.90. We start seeing some candles on the weekly perspective closing out. I'm just going to throw out the level here just to have it. But if we start seeing some candles start to really close like so, okay, well then we have a little bit more of an issue, and we'd have a higher probability of probably coming down to the weekly lows of the 11th or the 18th, right? So I would be watching that. But again, these are, it's, pretty far away. That's all the way down by, even lower than 5,900. That would take us down to 5870 area, maybe 5850. So that is a ways away. So I'm not really too concerned about it just quite yet, obviously. But it is something to keep in mind if we do start to find a weekly acceptance back underneath that, basically the 59.90 to be safe. But we are not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm still comfortable with buying dips from a longer term perspective. If we pull back like this, now of course it could reject. Whoops. It could reject, come up like this. These are all potential paths that we could take, or could do a straight shot right from right here and go straight up. So either way, as long as basically this area holds, still going to maintain overall bullish stance. Now we are still monitoring this overbought level here now, starting to really get, although green, starting to get back into that spicy area here on our overbought oversold indicator. So I am going to pay attention to that, but certainly while it's on the weekly, we've already been over the monthly. We know that that's obviously overextended and been overextended. So we're not too spicy at getting there. I've seen, we can go up 13. We can get readings at 13 here, 14 even, and we're at 11 now, but we're almost at 12. So just pay attention to that as well. But here now we've had 3 weeks in a row of upward momentum for the bulls. So you're going to have to certainly think that potentially we'll get some type of a slight pullback, just a little reset to be able to build up some more momentum to be able to then go ahead and move higher. But really, overall, things are looking good here from that perspective. The only thing that starts to concern me is how many weeks in a row. I mean, I guess here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have seen 5 weeks in a row. I mean, it's not an anomaly. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the 5th one, it started to have some issues and then continued. So it wouldn't surprise me to see maybe something like this take place in the markets. This take place in the markets. Try to set up some type of another flag as something I will be watching out for as well. You can see the same type of pattern repeat itself right here as well. So we could see some movement, as I was mentioning, down in this area, hanging out, and then finally making its move up into a higher high and new all-time highs once again. All right, so that's all I've got really for the weekly chart. Not too much to go over there, pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and bring it into our daily chart, and we'll keep these levels on there for now, but we will go over to some of our other charts that we have been watching, of course, and have our levels already set out on. And as a matter of fact, I already built them out, so let's just go over there and take a look. We'll start with this one for now, and they are very similar. Now here on the daily, we have also now starting to see overbought. We're over 12 on the Hello Momo overbought oversold indicator here. So we are getting even a bit more spicy, almost about 12.5 there. Let's see what happens. This certainly has the potentiality to start to cool down again, as you can see. So, but we can get up to 13. I mean, that's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, overall though, like I was saying, it's pretty straightforward here. Now we're taking a look at the daily chart, and it looks like to me, we are starting to find and try to build value here, trying to build a new balance zone. And it's as far as that straightforward, right? What needs to happen? Needs to find that acceptance basically over that 6110, I would say. Find some daily acceptance over that, or even, yeah, excuse me, daily acceptance over that, and we start to see some closes like so, and then of course we probably will go ahead and start to make those new higher highs. And just the same, anything underneath 60.75, well, then we've got a little bit of an issue there, and we can see sells back down into the prior balance highs over here, right around 60.50, 60.55. That would be my guess. We can take a look at the high from the 29th of November, which is 60.60. So anywhere, maybe about 10.8 point range in there. Could stop at the 60.60. We could see the sell down to about 60.55 as well. But for me, those would just be another retest of this area here, and I wouldn't really mind potentially either taking a starter position or looking for a long at a swing as well. I personally would probably want a little bit more of a pullback. This is, this was really kind of a manipulation here on the 11th, being pushed up to this 60, 53 area, 55. So what is kind of more of the balance high that I would be paying attention to is that 60-40, 60-45 area, the highs from the 8th and the highs from the 25th. And you can also see here pretty much matching highs, the 27, 26. So that really interests me a little bit more than being a buyer at 60-50. However, as I mentioned before, you could take a starter position and then potentially look to seeing adding into that 60-45 and basically out under 60-40. Because if we do get under 60-40, likely to fall another 10 more points, probably down to that 60-30 area. That would really be the line on the sand for me from the daily perspective. If we do start to see price acceptance underneath, well, then we've got a bigger issue here, and we could look for retests for moves back down. It may even, if we break, we may even come back, retest up into the 40, and then make the move. So there's two possible shorts there if we do start to see some type of a breakdown. And that takes us back down. We were already talking on the weekly chart, basically that 6,000, 59.90 area. That's a big zone we were talking about. That's the weekly higher low that would be putting in, and that could be another great spot to pick it up as well. But anything down to 60-40, 60-45, that would be kind of a daily higher low in my opinion. So if you are bullish, you can, again, we could look, maybe the balance lows hold at 75. One scenario, not my favorite. Another scenario, I like this one a little bit better. And as I mentioned before, I'm running out of room to draw the scenarios, but the 42. And of course, it might not go in a straight line. So I'm giving it all potentialities here. So we can see something like that as well. So like I said, pretty straightforward. We have been just continually moving up here, looking to, as I said, establish some value. So we also very well may continue to see some sideways action. It's been just basically a slow grind up. Day trading ES has been pretty difficult. The ranges have been pretty small. NQ as well, really not that favorable for day trading. We do have VIX down in the dumps right now, really giving the ranges of the markets a good old swift kick in the pants. So it's been a challenging environment. Day traders, we do thrive in a higher volatility environment, and we just have to be aware of how we trade and act when the VIX is lower. And this week has been, the last past week was a little bit difficult for me, admittedly, with this new volatility being crushed like this. I mean, it was only, it was only less than 15 days ago, 2 weeks ago, that we had VIX up at 16, 18, 15 at least, and that is way better environment to trade in. So you just have to readjust and be aware of these things. So just be careful here. We could just end up staying within this balance range here from 61.10 basically to 60.75. Yeah, it's tradable. We're looking at, and that's from the daily perspective, but you just want to be aware of the overall structure that's taking place. And we're not going to see that big trend day either way until we get a break of this balance and we go ahead and and the market wants to go ahead and find new buyers or sellers in either area, whether that be higher or lower. So that is what I've got for ES. All right, let's get into some day trading levels now for the E-minis. Take a look at those, and then we'll move on to NQ. And this is not what I want. What I want to do. Nope, still on the daily. Okay. Also, something to mention, we do have contract rollover coming up. Expiration, quarterly expiration, and I'm going to look. I need to look on my phone really quickly. We have recognize me. $13 days till expiration. So something to keep in mind as well as we get a little bit closer to contract rollover. Okay. All right, so from the day trading perspective, I'm going to be watching here and seeing if this break here in the morning did create some excess inventory here for us. So these buyers very well may be trapped and looking to potentially get out of their position if price does move back up towards that 61.0605 area. Can be a short zone potentially. You have limited risk there right at the swing high, so I don't mind that at all. And if that's the case, we can look for sells. Now we have basically matching lows down here, very close to 60.90. So I'll be watching that, but really if they break the 90, it can go about 4 points lower, 60.86. Really, that's what I would be targeting overall for that downside move if I was day trading this short and then looking for a move. And of course, I'd be taking partials in the 90s, but ultimately looking for that 86. If we can break over the 86, well, then we'll be looking for a little bit lower, maybe these data lows from NFP. That would not surprise me in the least to see price come down. If we did get under 60, 85, I would call down another 10 points for about that 60.75, and then 60, 67, 65 would be the next zone that I'd be watching. Could be a very nice buy zone here. You can see all on Tuesday we ran up against this level here, and a bit of Monday where this was a big zone, right? And if we come back down into it, you can just see here, I can make this as a little balance, right? And we come down here. That would be definitely an area with a limited risk to reward just underneath, obviously, for a potential move back up. And that would be pretty nice there from basically 60.70 to 60.85. So you can get about 15 points there, give or take, depending on your entry. Not bad. Of course, you'd have to be aware that you could see some rejection right there as well. But of course, we are taking scales along the way to protect our profits as well as moving our stop loss up. So that's what I've got there. Now, as far as the upside, if we start to see some acceptance back over 6106, 6110, of course, we'll go ahead and try to attack those equal highs. Then I'll pretty much be looking, I think, if we get over that, we'd be coming up into 6120, 6125. That would be probably pretty fair to look at for the next move. But, we are trading in all-time high territory, so it is a little hard to estimate exactly where it would be going because we're just flying up in no man's land. But I think that this is a safe estimate of where potentially we could be going if we break over. And I really hope that the volatility increases again because it is just miserable trading in this type of environment. I'm trying to mark off this 6120 and I don't know why it's not. Here we go. So I'll be looking for something like that as well, probably over that 33 and then 35 would probably be next in my opinion, but certainly a lot more progress for us to do. And in my opinion, we do need a bit of a reset, but hourly here is not even overbought, oversold, so it can certainly pop back up. Monday, I really wouldn't be surprised to see a very similar situation that we have been seeing, maybe a push up and over. Maybe we repeat Friday. Wouldn't surprise me if we did pop up over, or maybe even in Globex are very early morning trading, 7:30, 8:30. We're popping up and we're over in this area, maybe 61.23, and then we start to fail back underneath. But really, as long as then we hold over these highs here from 1 o'clock, hey, you can be a potential buyer around 61.10 or 61.05 and then look for that bounce there. However, if it does break, then we can look for those short trades that we were talking about. So as it stands, for me, if we're coming up, especially if we see a look above and fail, I'll be once again, I'd definitely be looking short. But as I was mentioning, I do think that overall, look at the hourly candles here that you're having to deal with on ES. This is just miserable to try to trade. And that was, what is this, an hourly? So this is like 4 hours of price action of a, what is this? We got 12-point rage. It's not even worth trading, to be honest. It's just disgusting. But we do what we have to do. And sometimes the best traders know when to go, big, small, or not at all. And as far as ES, it's a not at all category for me. And NQ is basically as well. Speaking of which, let's get over to the Nasty Nas and take a look at what Mr. NASDAQ is doing. And of course, let's get on a blank chart so we can just see what is going on from that perspective. Okay, new all-time highs here for tech as well. And a very similar situation, right? You can clearly see the break. Weekly, not quite as overbought as ES, but you can clearly see the break here. And as far as the structure is concerned, right, what would need to hold, right, the highs of the week of the 11th. And then we can do the same thing as we did for ES, right? Create our, there we go, create our demand here. So as long as NQ, I am welcoming any pullbacks into 21,370 to 21,225. From the weekly view, I don't have any issues with this. We could see this. We could see a pull in just to the first level. We can go mid. So anything like that is fine for me, and I would consider those potential buys. If we do happen to find acceptance underneath 21.20 or 21.220, watch for the weekly highs of the 25th. Right there, looking for sells down, probably down into the high there, which is 21.86, 21,000, yeah, 85 I'll call it. I hate this. I just like to go in the half numbers. So there you go. That's what I would say. Breaking underneath 21.225 can take us down to 21,085 is what I'd be looking for. Now, if we start to break underneath and find acceptance, something like this on the weekly basis, that's probably how that would look. If we saw something like this on the weekly basis, well, then we're going to be start talking about something else. And I, at that point, probably would be looking for sells to come down to the weekly lows of that same week of the 25th. So I would be looking back towards 20,665. That area there. If you want to know the exact weekly low, it is 20,675. I like that number much better. So let's go with that. 20,675. And you can see that's, it's perfectly matching right there. Right, basically these balance highs right here. Right, so I'd be looking to sell into that. And then at that point, well, at that point, you got to consider, again, being a potential buyer for a move back up higher. Under 21,000 would be a little bit concerning, but from 20,665 back up to 21,000, I mean, it's still about 400 points or so. So, to come back from here and then bounce back and back test the lows from the previous week, December 2nd, I could see that being a very real possibility if in fact we did fall down this far. So I would be watching for that. And that's still who's going to snuff on a 400 or 500 450 point swing trade on NQ there. So that would be very nice. Of course, you can do it on the Q's options as well. So we'll still monitor getting spicy. 11 about 11 half here on our overbought, oversold. One second. Okay. Let's come into a daily chart here. Okay. And you can kind of clearly see pretty much flag breakout here. Boom, boom. Here are the highs that we need to hold. And it's very much, when we come now into the daily, I can look for the highs. This is basically that same zone, right? This is what would need to hold here from the daily perspective. 21,515. Anything under that, and things can get a little bit dicey for the bulls. I wouldn't be surprised then to see sells back down towards the lows from the 6th, down at 21,630. May take a pit stop, yeah, 630. Oh, excuse me, not 630, 21,420, 433. So just look for the lows from the 5th and the 6th if we do start to see some acceptance underneath 21,515. You can just mark those off if you want to have them. I missed the low there. There you go. 21,430, 21,420. Only about 15 points, 10, 12 points there, so not that much. So that's what I'd be looking at from the daily perspective. Could be a buyer there, potentially, but underneath and things can get a little bit more hairy overall. Let's go and take a look at some of our other daily charts that we have been working with. I have the high marked here, same area here, as long as we pull back 21,565, 560, excuse me, 550, anywhere in that zone, still okay. Again, the highs from the 5th. Of course, if that happened, we would then just target the highs from Friday. The equal highs back at 21,670 basically. Something like that. If we fall below, and that's about that 25%, right? Which we often talk about. 25%. And the 50% would be a little bit higher. Right around 21,545. Take a look at our other daily chart. Have there. Same concept. The high from the 4th. The high from the 5th. You can get your demand level right there. Perfect. 21,550, 21,570. Anything under, watch out below. All right, let's get into some day trading levels for us. Right, because this you can kind of look at as balance. Underneath brings us back in. And then I would watch 21,500 basically. 490. There you go. I think that's fair. Break underneath. Otherwise, and this obviously we're still on the daily chart, so it's quite far away from where we are. But from the hourly perspective here, we are overbought. Looks like a flag, but overbought. I don't know if I would trust it personally. Okay. Here we are. Okay, so day trading levels here. Unless we get over 21,670 and hold, find acceptance, have to watch out. Can see sells back into the highs from here, 21,562, 60. Then we've got 50, 45. Underneath that, 21,500. We look at the figure. Underneath the figure, underneath 21,490, sells down 21,415. Got to at least have this level still here. In my opinion. So I think these are going to be important and potential buy spots, right? I mean, it could even, you know, really that's really where you also need to pay attention to right here. So if we're coming down 21,570, 21,540, all key zones. But under that, 21,485. Under that, 21,415. Very, very possible. Otherwise, break up over 21,670, hold. Then we'll be looking for the figure. About 20 points, 30 points up higher, 21,700. Next obvious target. And then we're just continuing to make new all-time highs. 21,750. And I believe, you know, we were talking about that end-of-year target. Potentially that 22,000. Very possible still. You know, we mentioned 25,000. I don't know if we can get there with the amount of time that we have left. I think, you know, basically maybe somewhere in this range, depending on momentum, that we could get to 22,300, maybe. Feel a little safer saying 22,200. But hey, I think you can easily do a 300-point day, right? 200-point day. Personally, a nice little reset, I think, could be good in order. And then we just rally up into the end of the year. But I think we got everything here for our day trading levels. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, really quickly, not going to spend too much time on it this week, but we will just take a look around of what's happening with the dollar rates, TNX. Okay, here we are. We did come into our 90, almost 95. I think we did tag 95 on the TLT. And I think we were talking, we got 94.85. Very close though. You can see the reactions here that we had back in August, back in June, back all the way in March. So multiple areas here for a little breather. Definitely showing a little bit overbought here, so I wouldn't be surprised to start to see a little, if not a pullback, some pullback and consolidation here on the TLT. Wouldn't surprise me, but I will say, as long as this 93 can hold, this is all well and good. We can see probably, I wouldn't be surprised to see this, that we just go sideways between 93 and 94, 75, 70, and see what happens from there. Because then it's either going to be up and over or under, and then we'll look back. Whoops. Please don't do it. Thank you. Then we'll look back down towards that 92, which we were talking about earlier when we were down here about that big pivot right around that 92, 91, 80 area. So those are your two pathways there for the TLT. All right, let's take a look at the dollar, or let's look at TNX first since we're on TLT, and look at the yields. Okay. Now, we were looking at this. We were talking about this finally cooling off. Obviously, TNX and TLT are inverse. And now we started to really come down, right? We were talking a lot about that 43. The 43 marker was what needed to break to see this come down lower. Finally got it. Now we're just hanging out. Attempted to make a low here, and we did close, well, 41 half. So we didn't close. I wouldn't be surprised to see TNX make its way back over 42, back over 41.75. I'm not so sure that this is legitimate, but if we do see another daily close underneath 41.75, 80, well, then I think we can look lower. It probably will fill in this gap. That would probably be the next thing that I'd be watching. So as long as we as long as the yields stay under 42, 42.75, watch for that potential gap fill. Come down 41.40 half would be my next guess, as long as we stay underneath that 42. If we, however, find acceptance back over, watch out, TLT will go back down, and then this will probably come back up, retest that 43 level once again. Will it get rejected? I don't know, but if it does break over, then watch for the yields to start to take off once more. The dollar, let's see what's been happening over there. We're talking about that pullback. Okay. All right. So, we were talking, and this is that bigger daily range. Are we on? Yeah, we're on the bigger daily range. Still here, you can see the dollar attempted to break over this 106.65 area, could not get back over. So, I was mentioning being short on the dollar, and it's still pretty much valid for me. This here, we've already talking about excess supply inventory, and I don't see why we wouldn't trade back down real close to 104, really maybe 103.50, maybe 103.75. That area makes sense to me. I would not be surprised at all. 104, maybe 104, 103.70, somewhere in that zone as a short target, as long as we stay underneath 106. You can give it 106.75, 106.65, anywhere in that area, as far as staying short. So that's what I've got there. And it seems to me, inflation worries. Well, we're going to have to see. We got CPI. So CPI is going to either, take this one way or the other. I mean, this was all inflation coming back. Maybe. The NFP numbers were stronger than we thought. So the labor market's holding up. And that's exactly what Powell wants to see. And they might pull it off. I mean, the one thing is inflation really hasn't been going down. It's kind of stagnating, right? It hasn't gone down. It's just kind of been hanging out in this 3% area, which I think is a little concerning, and we'll have to see. What's the next thing I wanted to look at? I think we're done here. We'll skip the transports in the Dow. Ooh, well, while we're here, might as well take a look. Kind of an M pattern here. Uh-oh. Breaking underneath this 17,000. Not good for transports. Watch them. Stay under 17,000 on the transports. Look for 16,666. I hate to say it. Look for a retest of the highs of October 16th. The Dow threatening a major breakdown as well. Same type of M pattern. But all's well and good unless we break under 44,370. Don't really have an issue. But if we break there, we're going to fill this gap down to 300. That would not surprise me at all. All right, not spending too much time there. What's going on with the yield curve? Oh, no, still at 0. Oh, okay. Now, one contrarian signal. Certainly here on the 1 day, we've got the 1 day VIX down in complacency zone, $7. And here, watch out for volatility to maybe make another appearance soon. Hopefully, new highs versus new lows, getting weaker but not under the 0 line. Nothing really to be concerned about. Okay, we talked about this coming up into 73, then rejecting. Didn't quite get there, but coming back down. Still over 50%, so not really too concerned there. The 200 did not make it over. And this is how many stocks are trading in the SPX over the 50 period, and the bottom one is over the 200 period moving average. So getting a little bit weaker. Junk bonds. Flat, but still holding this break. Curling up a little bit. No real divergences there for me to say anything. Now, remember, we did have, okay. Put call ratio came back to normalization. Nothing going on there. VIX. Okay, we talked about this. The move last week or the week before, we talked about maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Come back, we see we retested exactly into that 18, high 18, 19 area, fell below, and now we're getting back. Now we can see some areas where it's getting interesting on the VIX here as well for potential moves. So pay attention for a potential down day coming soon. And the VIX futures, what are they saying? Let's see where the VVIX is. Yeah, not really in the, not like the, it could come lower on VVIX. Not really in the warning sign, the same as where VIX is. This is coming down a little bit lower to the 80. Maybe have 1 day, 1 or 2 more days, and this gets crushed a little bit more. But we did have a green candle here. Well, it's basically flat, but almost not there. All right, contango, no one's scared about anything in the future on our VIX futures, so that's all well and good. Running through it. I think that's everything. Okay, yeah. The only thing I would say is where VIX and the 1 day VIX is a possible warning sign that we could have something coming up soon that can give us a nice pullback. But with that being said, of course, we will let the charts be our guides. As always, remember, a prepared trader is a profitable trader. So plan those trades, trade your plan. If this is your first time viewing the channel, and if you could take the time to subscribe to it, if you enjoyed the content, it really means a lot to me, really helps let me know I'm putting out content that you guys appreciate and enjoy. So all the support I am very, very, very thankful for. And I hope that you guys learned something today as well. Lastly, I guess I will leave you with... I thought I had something clever to say at the end. I'm not coming up with anything. So that's all I've got. I'm going to be in and out of the office this week, but I probably will be around on Wednesday. Either way, hope you guys have a great trading week. Remember also, too, as we get into contract roll and we're getting into the holidays, I mean, this grind can continue. The low volume can continue. At least on SPY on Friday, we did have 31 million shares traded. So I do know earlier in the week, we had about... the day was halfway done. We were at 14 million shares or something ridiculous like that. So volume is increasing slightly. I think, I was really hoping that after NFP that's what the market was kind of waiting for the next move, but it really didn't do too much. So CPI this week, we'll have to see what that does. But as we get closer again to the holidays, people are checking out mentally and going on vacation and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind. Good time to trade less and to size down and not to let yourself do anything crazy here towards the end of the year, and just really set yourself up on a nice front for coming into the new year. And I will probably start mentioning this again, but as we get closer to the end of the year, I think this is a good time. Every year I always start thinking about what my goals are for the next trading year. So you might want to start brainstorming that a little bit. But I will definitely remind everyone and mention it probably for the next 3 weeks as we come into January and the holidays. So anyway, I really appreciate the support, everybody. If you haven't already subscribed, turn on that notification bell. Please subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me, and love all you guys. And I'll see you out there on the internet. Trade safe, trade smart, and let's have a great week. All right, take care. Bye-bye.